Aquinas addresses the powers of the human soul, and he wants to distinguish between the so-called appetitive sentient or sensitive appetitive power and the intellectual appetite that we call will. He does something that may appear bizarre to the reader at first glance. He doesn't distinguish these two appetites based on what they are intrinsically, but based on something else, on the cognitive powers that provide the objects to the appetites. So in other words, he doesn't say the appetite that we share with all the other animals is different from our intellectual appetite, our will, because of what they are in themselves. But he says they are different from one another because what we know at the level of our sentient soul is different intrinsically from what we know at the level of our intellectual activity. Why does he operate this way in order to distinguish the powers of the soul? Which, by the way, he does also at the moment of distinguishing the will from free will, from liberum arbitrium. So he says they are different because the intellect, the object of the intellect, is different from the object of the reason. So why does he focus on the cognitive powers of the soul instead of directly focusing on what the appetites are? The reason is that the appetites are nothing formally, in a sense, in themselves. They don't have an independent formal content. They're like empty boxes. You don't even see them unless you see what they have inside. So the only way to characterize them or see them is through the objects that the cognitive powers provide to them. By looking at the features of what we know at our sentient level and what we know at our intellectual level, we can see how our inclinations towards these objects work, which is a different way to look at these things, which is challenging, because we know that when we try to figure out how these powers of our soul works, we cannot visualize them. There is no way in which we can have our imagination really helping, because there is no way to imagine something that doesn't have a formal content, just exists as an inclination or as a tension towards something that is provided by a different power of the soul.